In the massive race to deploy AI, just one misstep can be the difference between a game-changing breakthrough and a complete disaster that could actually sink your company. That one critical step? It's pre-deployment assessment. So today, we're going to break down exactly how to make sure your AI is truly ready for the real world before it's too late.
This line right here, it's not just some theoretical warning. It's a serious reality check. It perfectly sets the stage for why what we're talking about today is absolutely non-negotiable. We're not talking about small bugs or glitches. We're talking about legitimate existential threats to your entire organization.
And these aren't just hypotheticals, no way. These are the documented real-world consequences of launching an AI system without doing your homework first. We're talking about huge financial hits and reputational damage that can unravel a company, all because the right questions just weren't asked before someone hit deploy.
So here's our game plan. First up, we'll get crystal clear on what's at stake. Then, we'll walk through how to assess external third-party models. After that, we'll tackle the unique challenges when it's your own proprietary model. And finally, we'll wrap it all up with a practical pre-launch checklist you can actually use.
All right, Section 1, understanding the high stakes. Look, before you can even begin to manage the risk, you've got to know exactly what you're up against.
The potential damage here comes from all sides. Reputational harm isn't just a bad headline. It's customers walking away for good. Economic harm? It goes way beyond the fines to include the insane costs of fixing the mess. And legal risk could literally mean a regulator tells you to shut it all down. But there's this unique one for AI called acceleration risk, and this is a big one. It means because of AI's speed and scale, when things go wrong, they go wrong in a huge, fast, and often unstoppable way. Okay. On to Section 2, assessing external models. A lot of us are getting AI from vendors or using open-source projects, and this creates a really tricky situation, right? You have less visibility into how the model was actually built, but you hold all the responsibility for what it does. Think of this table as your technical playbook for vetting any third-party AI. Seriously, every single one of these points is critical, but I want you to pay extra close attention to two areas that are so often overlooked: intellectual property and liability. You have to know exactly who owns the output from the AI, and you must scrutinize those indemnity clauses, which, well, that brings us to a really crucial detail.
Here's the trap. Standard software indemnity clauses, they often have exceptions that make them basically useless for AI. Why? Because they frequently don't cover you if you modify the system or combine it with other data. But wait a minute. AI models are designed to be modified and fine-tuned with your data. This creates a massive contractual gap, a hole you've got to close before you sign on that dotted line.
And this right here really illustrates the fundamental shift in risk. When you're using a third-party model, you're worried about things like vendor lock-in and trying to understand a black box. But when you build your own proprietary model, that risk profile just completely flips. Now you have total accountability, sure, but that also means much higher liability. You're not the customer anymore, you're the provider. Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, the proprietary model challenge. Because when you build the model yourself, the risks don't just shift around, they escalate, big time. With a proprietary model, you own it all, the good and the bad. As the provider, your legal obligations are way more extensive. For example, if you trained your model on a bunch of data you scraped from the internet, you are now on the front line for any potential IP infringement lawsuits. There's no vendor to hide behind, it's all on you. So when you have sole accountability, what's your best defense? It's your internal process. It has to be rigorous, it has to be documented, and it absolutely has to be able to stand up to regulatory scrutiny. Because let's be honest, hope is not a strategy, a solid process is. So what does that process actually look like? Well, it stands on 4 main pillars. 1. A conformity assessment to make sure you're legally compliant. 2. Adversarial red teaming to actively try and break it and find flaws. 3. Building in meaningful human oversight. And 4. Documenting everything, meticulously. This is your internal validation playbook. All right, let's bring this all home in our final section. Whether you're buying a model off the shelf or deploying one you built from scratch, these are the core principles you absolutely must verify before you even think about going live. This is it, your final go/no-go decision. You've got to ask yourself these questions honestly. Is that contract fully vetted? Is the conformity assessment done? Has the model been stress tested? Is there a real human in the loop? Is the documentation complete? And maybe the most critical question of all, do you have a plan for when, not if, the model fails? If the answer to any of these is no,
then the decision's already been made for you. You are not ready to launch, period.
And that really leaves us with this final question for you to take back to your team. A successful AI launch isn't about crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. It's about preparing for the worst by asking the right, really tough questions from the very, very beginning. Thanks for joining me.